This is Richard Blade, the voice of the 80s and gay rock radio, and you're listening to the voice of 91 Reasons, Jeff Tucker. Totally awesome.
Welcome to 91 Reasons, a pop culture fueled rocket into the far reaches of nerd culture. Featuring your hosts, Jeff, Rachel, Luna, Austin, and Josie. It's Tucker time.
Okay, so I'm always talking on the show that I used to hang out with a group of guys, and we were unabashedly nerds. We played Dungeons and Dragons. We went to the movies every single week. We talked in movie quotes. And one guy that I'm always referencing again and again and again, if you've listened to the show, like, this is the guy that had all the cool movies that my mother wouldn't rent. So we'd go over to this guy's house, and he'd have Terminator. His house was where I saw Terminator and Blade Runner and Dawn of the Dead and The Hitcher and all these amazing movies, because he had a little freer reign on what he could watch.
Single parents, man.
Single parent. I had a single parent, but she watched what we did. So please welcome to the show one of my oldest and dearest friends, Erik Hardy, everybody.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
He is tattoo artist to the stars. So
the stars kids, really.
When did we meet? We met, I was in 8th grade and you were in 9th grade. So 1984,
yeah.
Norwalk High.
Yeah.
And was it drama or was it just general?
I think drama class was where it kind of started, you know? And then I would, like, hunt you down and give you Charlie horses and stuff.
Yeah, you're very into Charlie horses, and you used to call it dead leg. I'm going to give you a dead leg.
Dead leg, and it was just like, I was attacky with it. But, yeah, it was in drama class, and I think both of us kind of came out of our shells in drama class. We were able to speak.
Drama was where I found myself, totally. And here's the other thing is, we lived on opposite ends of the city.
Just about.
You know? And we converged on the high school. But there were many days where I would get on the handlebars of your bike and we would pedal off to an arcade or...
to Circus Pizza.
Circus Pizza, yeah. I'm always talking about Circus Pizza.
Yeah, I remember you were the guy who got me into delivering the
flyers, yes.
Which would get you the free pizza at the end of your run.
This Asian guy, we're at the time, you're 15, I'm 14 or 13.
I was 14 and you were 13.
And we were delivering flyers for the Asian guy who ran Circus Pizza.
Of the One-Ways, which was actually, the One-Ways is like the most gangster area in Norwalk, actually.
Yeah, and we had to go...
I didn't realize it at the time. I just heard people say, it's the One-Ways. I'm like, why'd they call it the One-Ways? Because there's a bunch of one-way streets.
Yeah.
But it was gangster. Like, it was like, no, you could get shot there.
I lived in Norwalk for many years and I never went one time into the one-way.
Well, Erik and I
were warned, though?
Yes.
Yeah, see?
Of course I was warned.
Exactly.
So we would deliver the flyers, and there was a moment we had like, how does he know that we're delivering the flyers?
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we just throw them in the trash? But we were good kids. And then when we went back to the place, he would go, he'd smoking a cigarette. He'd go, all right, get in the car, let's go. Yeah. And then we would drive, and we'd have to show him the flyers on the door.
Yeah.
And then he would begrudgingly give us payment.
We basically take you around the blocks where you went. He would kind of look up to see if there was little white things hanging on the doorknob, which it made sense.
Yeah, and here's
trying to watch your dollar, but it was like a free pizza or $5. I think was pretty much what he would do.
I took the $5, and the ridiculous part is I put it right back into his games, so he wasn't losing anything.
I forgot you were kind of like a Street Fighter extraordinaire player, weren't you?
Was
it Street Fighter or was it another game? Because you and this other guy had like this technique where you had these pencils.
Track and field.
So you could hit the buttons.
Yeah, it was a butter knife.
He had 2 pencils, dude. There were 2 pencils, and you put them underneath your fingers, and you'd be like... Yeah. It would actually cause him to hit the other buttons because the things were super long.
You had to hit the buttons to make the guy run.
Yeah.
So some genius kid somewhere figured out if you put a fulcrum in the middle and tapped one end, it would tap the other end.
Yeah.
At the opposite.
I thought that was pretty clever.
Oh, it was amazing. And then you know what happened? The game company put little cups around the buttons so you couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
It took all the fun out of track and field.
Dude, I remember you guys played that very, very well.
That's so funny. So we used to hang out all the time, and you were the artist guy in the group.
Yeah.
You've always been the artist guy in the group. You could draw better than anybody. You just had something in your brain could turn things into lines.
Yeah, for sure.
And
still the same way now.
There were other guys in the group and me, we were in awe because we would doodle this crap and it doesn't look like anything. And you'd go, here, let me show you something. And you'd draw a woman that we'd all want to have sex with. Like that, like we know that she doesn't exist.
Yeah, trust me, imagine how I felt.
But you would just
virgin and drawing women that can they would basically be the woman of your dreams, Yeah. Torture.
It was amazing, right?
Torture in my brain. But I appreciate you saying that. But then there was all the brains in the rest of the group, the fact that all of us had something to contribute. And that was one of the things that it was amazing to me that I almost could see a mini Lucasfilm ILM forming with me, you, Larry, and anybody else who was involved at the time, and yet you and myself are the only ones who actually pursued what we really loved.
Almost nobody that I know is doing what they said they were going to do back in the day.
Yeah.
Everybody settles. Everybody gets, quote unquote, a real job. Yeah. And some of us are like, no. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to work towards that. You did it, I did it, yeah. And the struggle's part of it.
Yeah.
You do the struggle so that when you finally get there, you go, I did it. And I'm not and no offense, if you want to be an accountant, you can be an accountant.
Sure.
That wasn't the life I wanted.
Yeah.
And never.
I could never picture you doing that. I always thought you'd probably get into something, either entertainment or coordinating or being behind the scenes on something, because you were always so damn sneaky. You always wanted to get into places. So I'm like, dude, he's going to infiltrate something.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
He's going to get into something because of the fact that he just kind of drives himself to do it.
What it was how I explain it is, movies and TV, to me, I needed to make them tangible. I needed to get on the set, meet the actors, find out how they do that voodoo that they do. Because when you realize how they're doing it, there's no special trick to it.
Therein lies the curse, too.
Right?
Because it kind of takes away some of the wonder sometimes. But at the same time, it kind of increases.
It depends. For some people, I could see like, oh, now it's ruined. But like, when I worked at Disneyland, they would tell me, oh, it's going to ruin the magic. I go, no, man, I'm wide-eyed every day I'm here. This is the greatest gig ever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, for me, knowing more about the movies definitely makes them better. I understand certain things now, though. Like, I know that there are certain things that just aren't real, and they just aren't what you want them to be.
Right.
But they're not meant to be real, and that's the great thing about it, is that you get to enjoy them as part of your fantasy, your getaway. And movies will always be that for me.
Well, the thing is you grow up liking the special effects movies, For example, you and I obsessed over Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters, Star Wars, Terminator. Yeah.
And here's the thing. What makes the terror dog in Ghostbusters real is Rick Moranis telling him he's going to get a milk bone. Right? The terror dog in itself is great.
Yeah.
But when you couple it with a human interaction, a human emotion, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
I just had a woman on the show, Terry Hardin, who was the puppeteer of the terror dog.
That's funny. I know Terry.
You know Terry? She's an amazing person.
Met Terry a long time ago. The funny thing about Terry Hardin is that Terry Hardin's mother worked over at Disney when my mom worked at Disney. So when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I actually got to see Terry Hardin's little tiny Yoda puppet that she had made when she was doing an internship at Sid and Marty Krofft. So, yeah, no, Terry is like one of those people that I had met when she was working in the model shop over at Landmark Entertainment when I got back from Japan. And she was a lot of fun to talk to. Really knowledgeable person. I'm surprised you know her. Yeah.
It was total fluke. Somebody on Twitter was talking to her and said, you should be on this guy's show. And she said, sure. So 6 weeks later, we finally got on the phone together and did like a 90-minute interview.
Yeah.
This is the woman who made the still suits in Dune.
Yeah, Terry's been around for a long, long time.
Do you remember going to see Dune?
I remember going to see it in 1984 with you and David Mandela.
Remember they gave us the glossary?
Yeah, the Dune terminology sheet.
Yes.
I had that thing for a long, long time.
Oh, I wish I had
it. The thing that was cool about that is they were really, really trying to give you an understanding of the plot and all of the props and all of the things that were in it that you wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Which is rare. They don't ever do that in movies these days. Like, you don't see anybody handing out terminology sheets at Avatar.
Right, no.
They didn't do any of that shit for you. They literally gave you something that you could read that could tell you what a squood was. What the hell is a squood?
Could you imagine going into a movie now and
tiny fermented mouse that you squeeze and it turns into a liquid and you drink it? My God.
But could you imagine going into the movie theater now and the guy says, "Oh, here's a pamphlet and it's know your Infinity Stones."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it would never.
Just a little backstory on all of the stuff for the Marvel Universe.
They wouldn't even consider that.
Yeah.
If by the time that first Infinity Gems War movie comes out, if you don't know what the Infinity Stones do and are and why, Disney will feel like they failed.
No, you may as well give it up at that point. They've been really explanatory about the whole Infinity Stones thing ever since they started showing them. So if you didn't pay attention.
That's on you, right?
So much to it. I mean, you already know that the Vision has an Infinity Stone in his head. What is his name? Heimdall from Thor. He's got one of the Infinity Stones is in him. He is an Infinity Stone practically. So there's just so many things that need to be grouped in those movies that once they get to that point, you got a lot to pay attention to. I watched a 7-part explanation yesterday of the Infinity Gauntlet and how it comes to be and all the people who are surrounding it and everything else. It's ridiculous.
You think that's going to make a good movie?
Oh, absolutely.
You think so?
It's because of the fact that they've already built up to it. They've given you so much story. Like, I've never seen so many organized films in my life where literally they've put out all these movies in perfect sequence so you can actually get to this one apex.
Right. The only thing that even comes close is Harry Potter.
Yeah.
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 And I think them watching Harry Potter and seeing that 8 movies can sustain an audience, we can do that. You know, I'm not a big fan of cinematic universe only because everybody's doing it now.
Sure.
And some of them, the ones that fail, means you don't ever get to see the conclusion of the story.
Yeah.
Terminator Genesis really pissed me off.
Problem with Terminator is they really just haven't upped the quality as much as they should have. Salvation was the closest they came to upping the quality of the franchise.
But compared to Judgment Day,
Judgment Day was great.
it doesn't have
Keep
the...
in mind, yeah, no, Judgment Day was awesome.
It's the
and
pinnacle, right?
It still had Arnold in it and everything else. But by the time they get to Salvation, they have all of these new CGI effects that they added, and they really made it look great, but they still didn't quite get me.
Well, the problem with Terminator Salvation is that they sold us a Terminator movie about John Connor, played by Christian Bale.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's hardly in the movie. It's about Sam Worthington playing a robot who doesn't know he's a robot.
Yeah.
That was a big switcheroo there.
It's a bit disappointing in that regard.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that you've got 2 stories you're telling instead of one.
Just tell
And
me
in
what the
earlier
movie's
movies,
about.
You really pay attention to Sarah Connor.
Yeah, and it's Sarah Connor's rise from waitress to badass that we, and that whole nonsense about, men won't get to see movies that star women. Are you out of your mind?
Women with guns will always keep going to a theater.
Aliens, Terminator 2. These are some of the
anyone
biggest.
listening to this right now, women with guns are hot.
Women with swords are hot.
Yeah. Well,
I'm excited for the new Wonder Woman
I made
movie.
the same point recently about, like, I can't remember what show I was watching, but like women fighting not so hot. Women fighting with swords, totally hot.
Yeah, sure.
I think I was talking about Bad Girls Club.
Just Bad Girls
I was
Club.
like, dude, I got tired of watching the show because it was just girls fighting, but like girls fighting with swords. If they busted out with like
Well, but boil it down even more.
Roman gladiuses and started going after each other, it'd be
There's
shit.
there's nothing wrong with strong women.
No, definitely
That's
not.
an aphrodisiac to me.
Yeah.
Strong women, are you kidding?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
you gotta have that.
Or women that start off weak and then get strong, like Lilu in Fifth Element.
The great thing about her and many other women who become strong in movies is I like the transformation process, whether it's a gradual thing or a montage.
Yeah.
I love to see the way somebody goes from being the underdog to all of a sudden kicking the shit out of people, and it's
Well, you
great
know,
to see.
I was
looking
just
forward to seeing Atomic Blonde with Charlize Theron.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
For that reason.
I was just watching, reading an article about, what was I thinking? I lost my train of thought because you distracted me with Atomic Blonde, which looks great. Did you see about Baby Driver?
Oh.
That looks great, where the guy puts on headphones and it's all real. Like the stunts are all real in the car.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and see a preview for that because I haven't heard anything about
no,
it.
Baby Driver is by what's his name? Scott. No, people are now yelling at the radio. The guy who did Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, I don't know who the director is.
He was the original director of Ant-Man. He got thrown off. Doesn't matter. It looks great. Ed No, I can't think of his name.
Well, if people were calling in right now, you'd have a list of answers.
Oh yeah. People are all angry.
We're all drawing a blank.
But here's the thing: if you go back to the '80s, I know everything. If you ask me about today, I have to think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
I have to think about it.
You'd be like, what about that movie, My Science Project?
Yeah.
It's automatic.
Real genius.
Just pops right into your head. Anything with Val Kilmer in the '80s.
What happened to William Atherton? Where is he?
Who is he?
He was the bad guy in Real Genius. He's Walter Peck in Ghostbusters. Die Hard. He's the reporter.
That's a real good question.
He has vanished.
Because it seems like the last thing I saw him in, the only thing that comes to mind is No Mercy with Richard Gere. And
how long ago was that?
Late 80s.
Oh yeah, that's a long time ago.
It's a very long time ago.
I think what happened. This is just conjecture on my part, but I think he was so good at playing a-holes that I think if he went out in the real world, he got a negative reaction. Fans like us would go, "Oh my God, it's so and so from so and so," but a lot of people would go, "You know what you did to Bruce Willis is terrible."
Well, there are people out there who really can't put the movie character aside, especially when they're in public. You know? I'm surprised that James Spader doesn't have that problem because he was a dick in everything, all the way up to Stargate.
Yeah, right.
There was no movie where he was not an evil asshole.
He always played that part. He had the lock on it.
Yeah.
What's
the man
Some Kind of Wonderful? He's like, "Look, dude.
Yeah.
If you want to mess around with that trash,
yeah, exactly.
Just do it on your own time."
Forgot he was in that.
Yeah,
he was the dick in that too.
He's the jerk in that. Yes.
Oh God, he's in the New Kids, and he gets set on fire at the end. I mean, he's.
Do you ever see Crash?
Crash.
Where him and Holly Hunter are addicted to being in car wrecks.
Oh, dude.
It's a.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's a David Cronenberg movie. These people get off on car wrecks.
I have seen that, but I only saw it one time.
It's completely bonkers.
Yeah.
But it's James Spader,
Yeah.
Or Secretary. He was great in Secretary.
Yeah. No, there's some really good movies with James Spader, but he didn't play good guys for a long, long time. I remember in that movie with Rob Lowe, where he plays kind of a geeky good guy, and Rob Lowe is like a murderer.
Jack's Back. Is that it?
Not Jack's
Not
Back.
Jack's Back? Oh, Masquerade.
It wasn't Masquerade, but it was definitely a movie where he's a bad guy, and he kills this woman, and then basically pins it on James Spader, and James Spader and his extra geeky roommate kind of like turn the whole thing around.
See, they don't make movies like that anymore.
Yeah.
If you go to the theater now, every movie is some big genre extravaganza, but they don't make little
Shades
tiny.
of Grey, that got turned into a fucking trilogy type thing. It's
well,
like,
of course.
it's got two, now they're probably going to do a third, and I'm like,
yeah, but those are terrible.
what's the point?
Those are terrible.
There's way better movies with like bondage and other stuff, I mean, if you're really gonna, have
I used to work at the video store.
Yeah.
Every Friday night, you guys have 9.5 weeks. It's checked out. Sorry, I don't know when they're bringing it back, and when they bring it back, you may not want it.
9.5 Weeks was way better than 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh yeah, no, it was real. Mickey Rourke, Kim Basinger.
Before plastic surgery.
There were a whole bunch of those movies that we used to rent out on Friday nights. I was just talking to somebody about that. There was one called Two Moon Junction with Richard Tyson.
I've definitely heard of that movie.
And Sherilyn Fenn.
I remember that movie.
It's about, I can tell you what it's about. It's about a Southern belle who's getting married to the right guy, and she meets a carny played by Richard Tyson. And that's everything she wants because he's like an animal. But those are movies we'd rent to women. Guys wanted Lambada, The Forbidden Dance, and 9.5 Weeks. And there was one with Kathleen Turner and Anthony Perkins called Crimes of Passion.
Oh, okay.
It had 2 video boxes. One was unrated, one was rated. Or
Crimes of Passion was that weird ass movie where he was playing the priest.
Yes, yeah, and she's a hooker.
Wow. Yeah, that was a strange film.
He's trying to save her the whole movie.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Angel movies? Where she's a student by day, hooker by night?
I've heard of those.
There was
movies.
Angel, Avenging Angel. I think there was a third one.
I do remember those.
They portrayed Hollywood Boulevard as like this carnival where you could have sex or get drugs or just hang out. But hey, because I remember
It just about is. It's just it's not that open ended. It's not like a Baz Luhrmann movie.
But it opens with a guy going, "Welcome to L.A. and Hollywood. What's your dream?" And you're like, it's a movie about a hooker. I don't think that's the dream.
Yeah, right.
But you know what? Surprisingly, a lot of little girls dream of growing up and becoming hookers. Why is that, Rachel?
I don't know. They make good money. You get to wear pretty clothes.
But is it because little girls don't actually know what that means?
I knew what it meant.
Because when you watch the movie Pretty Woman, I mean, they definitely glamorize the whole idea of eventually, finding somebody to save you from the horrible, awful life of being a prostitute.
Yeah.
I blame movies like Pretty Baby. I'm older than
Pretty
Woman.
Baby.
I was already an adult.
Pretty Baby was with Brooke Shields.
Yes,
My God, that was a long time ago.
That's kiddie porn.
It, but my dad had a thing for that movie, so it was on a lot in our house.
Yeah, the funny thing about Pretty Baby is that she was underage when she did it, and it was done in Paris. It was done in France, so you could get away with a lot more.
You can tell that's why it has that look to it.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful movie.
It was the
obsessed
cinematography, and it was
with
great, but it was like...
I was like, I want to be that little girl. I want someone to take photos of me.
See, I got into her a little later in Blue Lagoon.
See, like I had a crush on her in Blue Lagoon. I saw the Blue Lagoon way before I saw Pretty Baby.
Because Blue
Pretty
Lagoon
Baby was a rental at the
right. Blue Lagoon was on cable, and when it was on cable, it was on every day. So we watched it every day.
Saw Blue Lagoon at a drive-in.
Did you really?
Yeah, with Ghost Ship or some fucking movie. I can't remember. It was one of those things where you're like, really? A horror movie with a love story?
What's going on here? I used to go to drive-in all the time, man.
Drive-ins were great. It's just that it became a haven for like craziness, gangsters, and beer drinking.
There's a drive-in out in Riverside we go to all the time. It's great.
Do they still have they have designated drive-ins now where they have like movies that they kind of set up in advance and they have like a big participation.
Oh yeah, no, this is every week they have
like that rock and roll drive-in kind of thing or punk rock drive-in you're talking about?
Well, there's Mission Tiki Drive-In where it's got a tiki vibe, but Van Buren Drive-In's just a run-of-the-mill, just happens to be a drive-in. We saw Super 8 there, and
they've done some parking lot drive-in things now where you can go to a parking lot and watch a big projected movie. And everybody goes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But there's something about being in your car and you can bring whatever you want to eat.
Yeah, for sure.
That's great. The only trouble was, here's the funny part. Out in Riverside in the summer, when the movies are the best, it's a gazillion degrees.
Yeah.
So you sit in the car with the air on for a while just to exist.
Orange County is a lot like where I work over in the valley. It's like hot. Really, really hot.
It's terrible.
In the summer.
It's terrible.
I've had CDs warping my car and stuff, so yeah.
So you're a tattoo artist now.
Yeah.
What does that entail other than tattooing?
Tattooing is a very, very different position from being a sculptor and doing special effects work and making molds. It's a lot more interpersonal.
Sure.
Working with people, you get
it's
to
their
know
skin.
them.
Yeah.
You get to know people. You end up spending a lot of time talking to them about their life, their days,
It's so funny you say that, because I was talking to Rachel the other day. I said, when you go get a tattoo, I don't have any, but Rachel does. It's like you talk for a while, you get to know them, then there's a paperwork portion, then it's what do you want, then there's the prep work on that, then it's the tattooing. So it is quite a process.
Yeah.
And I think that's necessary because of the personal part of putting something on your body and trusting the person who's going to do it.
Do all the lead-ins fast.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you really do need to spend some time thinking about it. When you run into a tattoo artist who's anxious to work, that's a negative sign. You want to look out for that.
It's a little more laid back. I totally get that.
You know?
So we were at your place. It is very nice. What's it called?
It's called Think Ink Tattoo.
Think Ink Tattoo.
Yeah.
And where's it at?
It's in Woodland Hills, California.
Woodland Hills.
21626 Ventura Boulevard.
Is that considered the valley?
Yeah.
It's in the valley.
Yeah. It's in the SFV, dude.
It's in the valley, man.
They have a Facebook page too. I recently
They have a Facebook page.
Facebook, and we're in the middle of constructing a whole new website with awesome pictures and all that stuff.
And you also do piercings.
Yeah, I do.
How is that? I could never do that. I could never pierce somebody.
You know what? Piercing is one of those kind of things where I got into piercing because as an apprentice, you weren't making any money as a tattoo artist, and my boss would allow me to learn anything I wanted. So I started learning how to do piercings, and I did my first nose piercing, and then I moved on to navels and other things. And as much as I love tattooing, piercing has a really interesting intimacy that lasts a very short period of time.
Sure.
Literally, you put that needle through the skin, and you're bonded with that person through that couple of seconds of the experience. Because they're with you, and they're not going anywhere. And you've got total control. So that's an unusual kind of a feeling where you're like, don't move, let me put this razor sharp needle in you, and then I'm going to put some jewelry in you and make it look really nice. So it's like it feels like a negative that turns into a positive. It's a strange thing. But I really enjoy it, and I like the energy of it.
I watched a girl one time get her tongue pierced.
Oh yeah.
Didn't you watch me get mine done?
I'm just telling a particular story, not the tongue.
I didn't know if you're talking about. If I was the one you're talking about.
No.
Yeah.
So they get the tongs and they clamp the tongue down, right? And they're talking to her like, "Does this feel okay?" She's like, "Nah, nah, nah," right?
Yeah, I try not to talk to her.
Right. So he's got the jewelry and the piercing needle and the little ball that goes on the end, right? And he gets ready to do it, and he drops the ball, and it goes ting, ting, ting. So he gets it, and he looks at it, and he goes, "We can go ahead and do this, or I can sterilize this again. It's going to be another 45 minutes." And she goes, "Yeah, just go ahead and do it."
That definitely wasn't me.
So he went in, and she got infected after that. I couldn't believe it.
Well, the problem is that piercer allowed the customer to dictate what she wanted instead of allowing himself to protect his image.
He should have just said...
Because really, when it comes right down to it, if the health department had walked in and seen that exchange, if there were a fly on the wall in that exchange, someone would have got a fine.
Yeah.
Someone would have gotten in trouble.
Which ain't
because
cool.
Because really, here's the thing with your jewelry. Once your jewelry or your forceps fall on the floor, they're trash. They need to go into the dirty room. They need to be sterilized and cleaned and everything all over again. Ultrasonic, the whole deal. So he should have extra jewelry ready at all times. And
You bumped against the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized. You get nothing.
Yeah.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, exactly. You stole fizzy lifting drinks.
So let me ask you, how many tattoos do you think you've done in your career?
Oh, thousands.
Thousands.
At this
Does
point.
any one or two stick out where you're like, that is a perfect piece of art, or are they all perfect pieces of art? I don't know.
You know what? I'd like to say that I love everything that I do, but there are some things that are a little bit more standout than others. You know, there's portraits that I've done. There's times when I've done just like fun tattoos that literally you'll never do again, like on a porn star dominatrix. You know, those are the times in your life where somebody walks into your shop and asks for something and you have no idea who they are.
Yeah.
The great thing about where I work is because it's like surrounded by famous people's homes. They all live in that area. You could end up having any number of famous people walk in and want something, or a child of a famous person, and you just have to be the same person you are with everybody else and see what happens. And then you'll find out sometimes that, wow, I mean, this person actually is related to somebody ridiculously buku famous. You
How
know?
about the other end? Do you ever get people that just want something so dumb that you're like, I can't believe I'm putting this on this person?
Absolutely. Definitely.
Is that hard for you?
It's hard, but then when somebody says, hey, I'm going to pay you $80 to put
It's
a
like,
tiny
whatever
soccer
you
ball
want.
on my ass because of the fact that I lost a bet.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I can see
The I
that.
lost a bet tattoo where you get to put a tattoo on somebody's ass. A lot of people go, well, gee, I mean, that just seems like the most unfun tattoo, but it can be a lot of fun. You got to make it fun.
You ever seen 4 Rooms,
Oh, God, that's a great movie.
where they get Tim Roth to cut Bruce Willis's finger off?
Yeah, that's a great
because it's a bet.
And he just chops.
He just goes, "You've asked me to do it. You paid me." And they're like, "Come on, you better do it." Bang, and he just walks away.
He just takes off. It's a great scene. There's nothing more deliberate that I've ever seen in a film than him chopping Bruce Willis's finger off.
Yeah, you and I think of the other people that have even seen that movie.
Well, 4 Rooms is one of those movies. It's a cult classic, and if I know anybody who likes good, quirky films, you included, they've mentioned it.
You
But
steer
not
them.
everybody.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not in everybody.
I love those obscure movies. I do. At the video
got it.
store, those are the ones I would seek out. You know, and I think that's. We were talking earlier about movies and what's available and what's not. I think we're losing some of those quirky films. They go direct to Netflix, which is great that there's an outlet for that. You know, but
Netflix could do a lot more. And actually, I'm saying this right now. If anyone at Netflix is listening, I love your service, but you could put a lot more on there. You could put a whole hell of a lot more on there. Don't be like radio. Literally put everything on there that you don't put on because you need to. There's so many old movies that really, I mean, you'd have a lot more people watching Netflix if there was a few old movies that a lot of us old timers remembered from the 80s.
Oh, I
from the
totally
early
agree.
90s.
What's interesting is I was trying to explain to my kids that, and it's weird to think like, because they did this with the 50s, and to see it being done with the 80s is bizarre to me. The 80s are being fashioned and molded into something that's packageable.
Yeah.
And 90% of the music and the movies that we enjoyed are not part of that package. 80s music now only includes Michael Jackson, Madonna, Duran Duran, a lot of the other bands that we listened to that were big bands are not part of that. It's fascinating. And movies too, so many movies that star legitimate movie stars you go looking for, they don't exist.
Yeah.
They don't carry them anywhere.
One of the reasons why I listen to a lot of Jack FM is because I get a lot of the stuff
Obscure stuff, yes.
You may not hear anymore.
Right.
And
because K-Earth has gone to an 80s format.
Surprisingly.
But all they play is Madonna, Michael Jackson, and for some reason,
they play a
Guns N' Roses.
Mix of Motown, rock, and all kinds of other stuff, and top 40 stuff, and Scritti Politti, and stuff like that. And you'll hear that stuff. I'd like to see more people playing 80s new wave and alternative.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jonesy's Jukebox on 95.5 actually plays some of the stuff that you might like.
I've tuned in. KLOS, absolutely.
Good stuff, but yeah, no, there needs to be more. They need to start packaging some of the stuff that was a little less familiar.
I'll give you an example. There's a reasonably popular movie from the 80s that I went looking for on DVD. Nobody carries it. Not even in one of those discs that has like 4 movies, like 80s weekend night.
The ones they sell at Target that have like 4 movies on one.
Yes.
Fletch
Lives,
All-Nighter, and
Great Outdoors,
and Better Off Dead, all in one,
right.
on one disc.
And this movie's legitimate.
Which one?
Mannequin.
Oh, wow.
That's a legitimate movie.
McCarthy.
Andrew
Kim
McCarthy,
Cattrall.
Kim Cattrall, Starship, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. I finally found
It's surprising that you'd find that, and you can't find that, and yet Mannequin 2 for some reason might show up.
Mannequin 2 on the Move might show up on Netflix.
Yeah.
Because the buy-in rental is cheaper.
Yeah, I guess, right?
So I go to this place called Book Off. They've got thousands of movies for $2. Do you know what Mannequin cost me? $7.
Really?
So it cost 3+ times what Silverado was $2.
These are DVD, right?
DVDs. Yeah. Mannequin was $7. I paid it because I'm going to review it on the show. But I was really stunned that, to me, that's a popular movie.
Yeah.
Like Mannequin, Weekend at Bernie's.
Cost more?
No, I think it should have cost less because there should have been 10 copies.
Because I was going to say, like when I buy movies over at Big Lots, they're like $3 each, and they're like the old stuff.
Yeah. I love that old stuff, man. That's my bread and butter. Are you kidding? That's my friends.
Those are good movies.
Those are all
things that I really like. I love all the CGI and everything. I was one of those people who kept my VHS for a long, long time. I still have some VHS movies I won't get rid of because I think that they're collectible and because they hold
they have
meaning
memories
and significance.
They have weight.
So I won't get rid of them.
Yeah. There's a reason I still have my beta copy of Back to the Future.
Yeah. Usually I'm one of those people who won't change formats. But I just recently got into 1080p, 720, and 480 and started noticing the huge difference in quality.
Well, listen, I'm not one of those guys either, but if there's a Blu-ray and a DVD, I'll always get the Blu-ray, even if it's a few more dollars, because I know on my big TV what that's going to look like.
I've got some Blu-ray files. I don't own any Blu-ray discs. I don't have a Blu-ray player.
Okay, we have a PS4, so it plays Blu-rays. But, it's shocking, even movies that I consider to be summer tentpole movies. True Lies does not have a Blu-ray release.
Oh, Schwarzenegger,
Jamie Lee Curtis, and the DVD has 0 extras. It has the movie and the trailer, and the trailer looks like it was made in the 60s.
And that's all they have on the disc?
That's it. Nothing. The Abyss. I can't find The Abyss in a big package. I want everything. I want all the scenes. I want it in Blu-ray.
Have you seen the 4-hour version?
It's great.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of The Abyss.
I saw the 4-hour version. I was...
With the waves, the waves that come up and everything.
The whole character you never saw in the first theatrical cut.
There's
a whole character they cut out.
It's such a good movie.
They cut an entire character.
Yeah, that's the magic of editing.
I was really surprised about. Like when I saw the 4-hour version for the first time on Sci-Fi Channel, flabbergasted.
What's like
jaw hit the floor.
When I saw the letterboxed version of Ghostbusters, and you're like, oh my God, Ernie Hudson's in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Because whenever the pan and scan moves, they always cut out Ernie Hudson. They just cut him out.
Wow.
And I remember buying...
he does come in for a job at a certain point.
Right. So. And then after that, anytime they're in the car or something, the camera would just move over to Aykroyd and barely show him. Because I remember I bought it on Criterion. Remember Criterion?
Oh, yeah.
Criterion Laserdisc. It cost $90.
Yeah, they still have the Criterion collection.
And the ad said, Criterion welcomes Ernie Hudson back to Ghostbusters.
Wow.
Because the pan and scan was so deliberately cutting him out of the movie. Fascinating.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And some of those movies from the early to mid '80s that were shot on, Panaflex, Panavision, big movies. The pan and scan versions will make you sick when somebody points it out. I remember watching the VHS of Annie.
Oh.
Annie is really wide, and the camera will slide over to show you the other side, and you can actually get motion sickness from it.
Because it goes so damn
Because
fast.
it's not. The director never intended that. It's a static shot, and now the camera's moving back and forth because of the way the characters are framed.
Crazy.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, no, see, it's like there's a lot of old movies that I haven't watched in the new formats that are available just because of the fact that sometimes I forget that they're there.
Oh, sure.
You know?
I remember seeing Back to the Future 2 on the big screen digitally. The clearest picture I've ever seen. This is a movie
Didn't they do a re-release or something of that?
Yeah. So there were things I was looking at it I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Like, to see something on the screen that was never there before. You know, when Marty's running through his neighborhood in the alternate 1985,
Yeah.
you can see a Bifco for sale sign on every yard because
Wow.
Bifco owns the neighborhood. I never even picked up
It's
on
also
that.
because you're using a higher definition TV.
It's
as well.
just clear. Yeah. You know, and it's
There's a lot of things I notice now that I didn't notice when I first saw certain movies, like, and this is not old at all, but Lady in the Water. I just watched that last weekend, which I didn't really care about that film when it came out that much. Loved it when I watched it in high def because you could actually see the creature. You could actually see the things that are going on in that film change. Whereas when I watched it in VHS, even in just regular DVD, I don't think it was that good.
There's a whole series of movies that I attribute to you, which I think is hysterical. You get credit for Terminator, Conan.
Yeah, Conan was my movie.
Yeah, man. You introduced me to Conan. I was like, how did I miss this, man? This is great. To some extent, you'd also get Beastmaster.
Beastmaster was one of those movies I saw at Norwalk Twin when I was a kid and loved it. And the prospect of seeing Tanya Roberts half naked
in a loincloth.
That was definitely
from Charlie.
Sale.
We knew her from Charlie's Angels, and you're like, she didn't wear that on Charlie's Angels.
She was totally nude in Sheena.
Yeah.
And that was like one of those things where you're like,
yeah.
I think I was 14 or 15.
You're like,
and next thing you're like, oh my God.
I think I'm a man now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, next thing you know, she's telling you, shed those strange skins you wear, and she's naked, splashing water on herself.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
I remember, but the summer after we met, Back to the Future was all I could talk about, and you were like
very much a fanatic for that film.
And you're like, hey, I got a movie. You can come over and watch All the Right Moves. And I'm like, I'm not watching that. It's got Tom Cruise. I don't like Tom Cruise. You're like, hang on. And all of a sudden, Leah Thompson's topless in it.
I think that might have been the reason why I showed it to you.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't be watching this.
I remember that. Your reaction to that was so, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, it was cute. Because of the fact that you literally just like, the woman of his dreams was topless.
With Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It was irritating.
Yeah, no, it'll still be irritating if you think about it, because I hate Tom Cruise now. Now I don't like Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really likes Tom Cruise that much.
You were also the guy that brought over Mad Max,
Road Warrior.
we were talking about Blade Runner.
Blade Runner was one of the movies.
Yeah, and it was weird too because as big a fan as I was of Harrison Ford, to a young teenager, Blade Runner can be boring. It's very slow, but your enthusiasm was like, we have to watch this. And oh my God, one of the finest films I've ever seen. And that's the one with the narration that everybody hates.
That most people don't like.
We didn't have another version
I liked
10
the
years.
gumshoeiness of the narration. That's the only reason why I really liked it.
Yeah, that's something about that
like
movie.
An old detective novel. When I saw it for the very first time in a theater with my mom, I was like, "Oh my God, this is the coolest movie ever!"
I wish I'd saw it in theater. That's how good it was.
Yeah.
And they had little Hot Wheels of all the cars. Like those are so expensive.
Those have got to be collectible.
Very expensive.
I don't know if you saw what I posted just recently on Facebook. I guess Heavy Metal posted an entire series of behind-the-scene photos of models from the original Blade Runner. I think.
Oh, no.
I think it
Oh.
was like over 100 photos.
Wow, all the cityscapes and
Yeah,
stuff.
cityscapes, city models, all the little cars, his car, a lot of stuff.
Do you remember going to the museum in LA when they had all that stuff on display?
Yeah,
You remember that trip?
We saw the little mini Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and we saw the Queen
gun.
fighting the alien, the power loader.
I remember that was a really small exhibit of stuff that we saw.
But it was all like, oh my God, that's a spinner.
Yeah.
You know, that's
One of the buildings.
the buildings,
yeah.
right? That they had Steve Martin's nose from Roxanne.
Yeah.
You know,
That was like a little mini exhibit that we went to, and then we saw more over at the Star Wars 10th anniversary convention when we went inside that room. It had like all the.
it had the Ark of the Covenant. I'll never forget seeing the Ark of the Covenant
There
for
was a lot
real.
of shit in that room. That was like a dream come true kind of experience going into that room.
I went to the 20th anniversary. Excuse me, the 30th.
right.
Excuse me, the 30th
they
anniversary.
had that a while back.
And
I forgot all about that.
It wasn't very good because what they had on display were the prototype models. Colin Cantwell's pre-production land speeder, sandcrawler, X-wing, blah 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 blah. And as neat as those are, they don't have the weight of the ones we saw on screen. So when you and I walked into that display room at the Stouffer Concourse Hotel,
Yeah.
and seeing the Ark of the Covenant and Darth Vader's helmet, like for nerds like us, the idea that they were displaying this, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Here's something you can be proud of is that after going to see everything at Stover Concourse for the 15th or 10th anniversary, the 10th anniversary, the funny thing is I've talked to people who went to the 20th or 30th anniversary and they were actually jealous of me.
Oh yeah, no, that
So
10th
I would
anniversary
have
was
to
special.
say that,
It was-
we definitely got in at a good point.
There's something about that convention that if we hadn't gone, we would have regretted it forever.
Yeah.
It was so much. Do you remember the guy with the laser and the pulse rifle?
God. That was one of the craziest things ever. And it was like totally like it felt so wrong but so right.
Yeah, he was
time.
shining it
I had
across.
a 2 milliwatt laser showing it down next to a security guard from like I think the 20th floor or something
Yeah.
like that. And shit got heavy. Like they started calling cops.
They came to the door and they
thought somebody
said,
had a laser sight.
the people from the hotel came to the door and said, look, we don't know what's going on in here, but it has to stop or somebody's going to federal prison.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're like, we're taking off. We're taking off.
Everybody vacated the premises.
That was
It
the
funny.
weekend where we saw all those props from the
We saw
movie.
David Prowse. We saw Chewbacca.
We saw Anthony Daniels. We saw George Lucas. We saw Mel Brooks
Yeah.
at the premiere, the pre-premiere
You guys
of
went to
Spaceballs.
I didn't go.
You didn't go.
I didn't go. I was stuck at the hotel. I think I ended up. I think I missed my opportunity to go, and then ended up at a party. And then by the time you guys got back from Spaceballs, I was liquored up with friends and partying.
And that was when Larry was wearing that dog mask.
Yeah.
Why was he wearing a dog mask? You know why? Because he spent all that money on clay and foam latex and
that was the
plaster,
only thing
and
that
that
he
was
could build.
that was the only thing he could sculpt and put together. And you know what? We were jealous of him at the time because I didn't have the wherewithal to do that.
Yeah, no, he was one of those people who. The great thing about Larry is that Larry put his money and time into making these things at a really early stage in his life.
Yeah.
Which kind of inspired other people to do it too. So I would say that I could thank Larry for going in that direction. Because when I first went over to his garage and he was making a Freddy Krueger glove, I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. But it was completely wrong. It was completely wrong from the glove. Once we did a lot of research,
Yeah.
you and I
made my
once we
own.
sat down
Mine was screen
and we were
accurate.
looking at all these different things that went into building the damn glove. It was so different from anything that he had envisioned. But it was really cool at the time. And I was like, wow, that's fucking cool. And he was into some of the soundtracks I liked as well. It's just unfortunate that Larry went the direction of, I think I need to be a military guy and have a job and support a family and do all this stuff and have a wife. When in truth, he was the mastermind behind, I want to be an effects guy.
Yeah,
You know?
sure.
You know, and
You always say the first time you took me over to Larry's house was the first time I'd ever heard K-Rock.
Oh wow.
And it was playing I Might Like You Better If We Slept Together.
Oh, Romeo voice.
And I was like, what kind of music is this? This isn't Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
And he had a
You were a big Huey Lewis fan at that point.
Paul Reiser dartboard from Aliens of Burke.
Yeah.
And I remember going, it's a movie, right? He's not really a bad guy. And I was like, shut up, and just Dart after dart after dart. How funny is that?
All that shit brings back memories, man. It really does.
Good times.
Yeah.
Really good times. Do you remember what you used to do with me on the handlebars of your bike? You used to swerve and go, photon turn. And I'd go, you're going to kill us all.
Yeah, no. You had a great flair for drama, and I was always trying to do something dangerous, so it always worked out.
It worked out. We were Johnny Knoxville and Steve-O long before those guys.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, without beer enemas.
Yeah, I never got into drinking.
Yeah.
Or enemas, so I'm
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, no, I did the drinking thing for a while. I'm glad I stopped. You know, I'm just happy that my life is in a productive direction, and I still know a lot of really awesome people. I still know you. I still know a lot of people from the past that really kind of they shaped a lot of what I decided to do.
Sure.
Definitely.
It's
what
important.
about you, man?
It's important to know.
What about you and your career with Knots, man? I mean, like that's pretty cool.
23 years.
I mean,
I've been there 23 years. Yeah.
but I mean, it's like, how do you keep this going? The whole Knots thing. I mean, it's like, did you go from like one position to where you just got promoted to where you're at right now?
Yeah, what happened was persistence. I hate to say that, but it's persistence. Where I started off lowest guy on the totem pole. I was in the jail, and I was the voice of a dummy. You go visit the guy in the jail, and I'd go with a microphone. How you doing, partner? Tell the sheriff to let me out of jail.
Yeah.
And it just, to me, what I saw at Knott's was potential. Like, they're letting people come in here and do stuff. Totally not the vibe I got from Disney, where it's like, you come in and they've got it prepared for you, and this is what you do. And I was doing improv on the microphone. So that morphed into, I discovered Halloween Haunt that first year, and a show called The Hanging. And I watched it over and over again. And I basically said, I could write that. I know I could write that.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody would just give me a chance. So the chance came when they decided to do Snoopy shows in Camp Snoopy.
Yeah.
They started something called the Camp Snoopy Sidewalk Theater. They didn't have an auditorium or anything, but it was a wagon with a sound system. And they would pull it out, crank it up, and do a little show. Well, they put word out that they were accepting shows from anybody and that they were going to pay for them.
Wow.
So I submitted like 20.
So the light bulb went on.
Oh, yeah. I said, this is my chance.
Yeah.
So I submitted synopsis for a lot of them. They came back and realistically wanted, I think, 2 or 3. So I wrote those, and there was a real surreal moment. Now, I had done plays at high school. I had done plays at college that I wrote.
You were writing all the way back to high school.
So to walk into Knott's Berry Farm, a place that I had grown up in, because my mom liked Knott's much more than Disneyland. So to walk into Camp Snoopy and see Charlie Brown and the Peanuts gang doing a show that I wrote was like a moment. Oh my God, I did it. They're doing my show.
Yeah.
So that sort of gave me a reputation that I knew how to write a little. And eventually they came to me and offered me a chance to write with the guy that they hired in to write it. And it was funny because how they gave me the job was, we're going to have you work with this guy, and he can use your ideas or not, and you won't get any credit. And I said, I don't care. I just want to write it. Plus, the guy I was working with, Ken, was a really good guy. And I got along well with him, and we meshed comedically so well that I always said, look, if you watch the show and you laughed at something that was really funny, it was Ken. If you watched it and you groaned at something that was gross or hard to look at, that was me. So we sort of meshed together like that. Yeah. And I worked in that capacity for 10 years. I did 10 hangings. And along the way, I went from the guy in the jail to the guy in the mystery lodge. I had a short stint as the human resources guy, and I'm not really sure what I was doing over there. It wasn't for me. But then I came back, and I would run shows and write shows and put together Halloween projects.
I remember you were doing Mystery Lodge. I mean,
Mystery Lodge is my baby, yeah. And then just recently I got a promotion, so now I'm a writer. And I go in and I write proposals and internal memos, and I help with publicity releases, and I'm doing exactly what I wanted to be doing. It's amazing, and I'm not one of those guys who goes, oh, I got to go to work today. I've never been like that. Every day is like, let's do it. Let's create something. Let's put something together. I know it sounds cheesy. Let's change the industry.
Yeah, no, it doesn't really sound cheesy at all. I mean, even at Universal Studios, when I was working there as a face painter for a year, you never really go to work with a sense of no purpose.
Did you ever see the guys up in the windows that were yelling down at people?
Where?
On one of the streets, they would have windows open and like people sitting in the windows yelling at guests as characters.
Where, at Universal?
Yeah, Universal.
I always got there pretty early.
Ken did that for a while.
I was always there as as early in the morning as I could be, so I never really got there before all the people were already in character. It was always me going and collecting money at the vault to get over to the station and then set up and get my face painted. So I never really got hawked at or anything. It was always just normal walking in there. It's usually towards the end of the day you'd see a lot more stuff, but they don't really interact with you as much when you're a player.
Well, let me ask you though, knowing our background, did you ever take off and walk around the sets?
I had considered it, but I had also gotten a warning from the people I had worked with, because I guess somebody had done this who worked for the company. So they said that, if you did it, you'd get fired. And at the time, I really
Yeah, I could see that.
So I was like, I guess I'm not going to be as mischievous as my mind wants me to be.
Sure, right.
I mean, when you think back to the past and the things that had gone down there, I mean, part of me wanted to take the Universal Studios tour tram and get out somewhere and just run around. Have fun.
I don't think we talked earlier, but not on the show. You were part of the let's go into Universal at midnight and stay till 4 a.m. troop.
Yeah.
How many trips did you make?
I did one trip.
You did one.
And it's very memorable. Because
I did so many, they meshed together.
Ninja training is what it was.
Yeah.
It was like literally hide in the bushes, run around, get to the next site that you recognize,
but
geek out on it, and then run again.
Do you remember getting to the Psycho House?
Definitely remember getting to the Psycho House.
How cool is that?
It's one of those kind of things where you could never really just tell everybody and have them believe you, but at the same time, I know that I was there.
We were there.
And I also know that when you got inside of it, it was a storage room.
Yeah, it's a shell.
It's literally a storage room. It's like a front with a box behind it.
Yeah.
With a bunch of stuff stored in it.
But we were in the Psycho House.
Awesome,
yes, we were in the best little whorehouse in Texas.
I walked up the steps to the Psycho House and touched a plastic planter and all kinds of stuff. A plastic planter that looked like rock.
Yeah.
So definitely, we even touched the handles on the doors for the actual motel or the hotel out in the bottom.
Yes.
In fact, we want to see if there were actual rooms you could walk into. So, it was nice. Not nice. It was literally
surreal.
Surreal and kind of fascinating and just kind of kooky to go into a place that you shouldn't be at, but you're just going to have so much fun running around.
Yeah, oh yeah. They were great times.
Yeah.
For a guy like me, you know how nerdy I am. I've never been drunk. I've never taken a drug. I don't have any tattoos. I've never done anything crazy.
But that's a high,
but
my friend.
I sneak into places.
Yeah, that's a high.
That's the coolest thing I've done. And not a lot of people have done that. And I've actually continued it in my adult life. I have snuck into some crazy places. I once snuck onto Willie Nelson's tour bus and sat down at the table with Willie and had a conversation. Awesome. I wasn't supposed to be there. And he just was like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing great, Willie. How are you? What am I doing on your bus?
That's something that not too many of us can say that we've done. Definitely.
But, the worst that can happen is they can just throw you out. I mean, we talked about now.
I think that's the philosophy you have to have.
Yeah.
The worst they can do is just toss me out.
But you couldn't do the midnight thing now. We were talking, you and I would get shot.
You'd end up, dead.
But during the day and stuff, you could fudge the numbers and sneak in a few places if you wanted to.
The great thing about Universal Studios, they aren't very stringent in some cases. Once you get past Walter's Gate.
Yeah, once you get in, you're in, right?
Once you get past Walter's Gate,
you can't
there's
go,
a lot of things that you can do.
You can't go knock on the Amblin offices. I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, I know that wouldn't be a good idea, but also all that stuff is in areas that aren't as accessible. It's the actual set areas and the actual areas where the tourists go that lead to all the other areas. Mm-hmm. So once you get past Walter's Gate, and Walter's Gate is like this gate where there's this really old gentleman of color who's been there for so many years that he's got his own gate named after him.
Walter's Gate.
Walter's Gate. And literally, once you get past there, you're good.
Somebody was telling me, you might know this, behind the War of the Worlds, this was on the last episode, behind the War of the Worlds airplane is the Jurassic Park Site B from Lost World.
I don't know.
And that it's still there.
It could.
Oh man, I gotta get
me.
there. I'm gonna go for Halloween Horror Nights this year and just sneak off the path. What do you think?
That would be an easy night to do it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna do. They're probably listening now. They're gonna catch me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Oh well.
Find something.
Anything you want to plug, Eric?
Well,
Think Inc.
Thinking Tattoo. If there's anything I'm going to plug, it would be me and my tattooing at Thinking Tattoo in Woodland Hills, California, 21626 Ventura Boulevard. Or you can call me and set up an appointment at 310-292-3084 if you're interested in getting some work done. My Instagram is HardyE1970 if you want to check out some of my work. I don't have any of my special effects work up. I haven't thought about putting that on my Instagram yet, but one of these days I'd be glad to go ahead and show some people. But yeah, that's really...
Do you still have your sculptures?
I still have some of my sculpture, and I have pictures of a lot of the stuff that I did.
You showed me Humpty Dumpty once.
I still own that Humpty
That was one of the most amazing things I have ever seen in my life.
I still have it.
It was Humpty Dumpty broken.
Have my Hellraiser box.
He was broken half, holding a lollipop, screaming.
Yeah.
And it was terrifying.
Giant yolk and intestines coming out. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes.
I've always wanted to redo that piece just because of the fact that I've learned a lot since that point. Taking classes and stuff. But
You still have your Hellraiser box?
I still have the Hellraiser box.
Wow, that's great.
It's still intact. It's not broken.
No more boxes.
Oh, yeah. I just remember when Greg Stone wanted that box so bad after I made it. But it made him so much money at the Fangoria Weekend of Horrors that he eventually just gave up the battle and said, fuck it. You know, I'm going to go ahead and let you keep your box, and I'm going to take my money from my Phantasm balls and my Hellraiser boxes. And it worked out well.
And Greg made a lot of money off Hellraiser boxes.
Yeah, that weekend.
He asked me not that long ago if I still had mine. I said, Greg, it's been 30 years. I have some stuff and I don't have other stuff. Would I like to have my Hellraiser box? Sure. But I have no idea.
Yeah. You got so many other things.
I know, right? I'd like to have
the collection that you have in here. This is Jeff's house. Nobody else lives here.
Oh, I know. It's completely insane. There's an action figure of me over there from one of those laser printers. He's getting up to go look at it.
I'm getting up to look at this because I've never seen an action figure of one of my best friends.
Oh, I'll show it to you in a minute in the light. Let's finish up the show. So this is my good friend from 1984 and every year
now.
since.
And now.
Alondra
I'm hugging
6.
This dude.
Oh, wait, I need a photo.
I'm hugging this dude.
There you go.
Hold still. This is the code
We used to go.
You'll see this on Facebook in like 3
Hold on,
seconds.
Rachel's taking a picture. On the show, taking a picture.
Wait, it blurred. Why did it blur?
I don't know why it blurred.
I think it's
I'm
the
sure
light
people
one
are
you just
riveted.
did.
People are riveted.
This is way better angle. Turn my way.
People are riveted for this.
They know me.
Okay, so Lakewood movies, Lakewood Center South, Cerritos. Remember the Cerritos twin that's not there anymore?
Yeah.
Movies. We used to go to Equicon and Gen Con and LostCon.
LostCon 86.
Yes, right. I still have all the pins from that somewhere. We used to volunteer, so we didn't pay anything.
Yeah. It was the best way to do it, too. Because
Best times ever.
Yeah.
The best times ever.
Unforgettable times.
We once took a shower separately in Bijo Trimble's shower.
Oh, yeah.
At Equicon. Fantastic. It's been awesome having you on the show, Eric. You're welcome back anytime. If you want a tattoo, then contact Eric, and he can sit and tell you all these amazing stories himself.
Yeah, while I poke you with needles.
Absolutely. Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Eric
exactly.
Hardy, everybody.
Audrey.
Give it up. Eric Hardy, everybody.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we end the show by going, the show is called 91 Reasons. And so you want to try it out? Eric, what's the show called?
91 Reasons.
Yay!
Thanks for listening by Graham Thar's Hammer. We'll be back with another episode. Live long and prosper. May the force be with you. So say we all. Hey, hey, hey.